What's good, everybody? Today we got some short but sweet stories from Malicious Compliance. Some of these are old, but well worth it if you haven't heard them yet. Let's get into it. I demand to be put in a seat that is able to recline. A few years ago, I was on a flight from LA to Singapore. It takes 16 plus hours. I'm a tall dude, around 6'3", 190 centimeters. So I don't fit very well in economy class seats. On most planes, my knees are often very close or right up against the seat in front of me. This makes it impossible for the person in front of me to recline their seat, which usually isn't a problem once the person in front of me sees how cramped I am in those tiny seats. However, for this particular flight, the man in front of me was not having it. He tried to recline his seat, but couldn't because my legs were there. He turns around and sees what's happening and asks me something along the lines of, "Do you mind letting me put my seat back?" I respond with, "I wish I could, but I physically can't. I'll do my best to give you as much space as I can, but it won't be much." At this point, he starts to get angry and just starts pushing as hard as he can back on his seat. Needless to say, this was not particularly pleasant for me. I ask him to please stop, and he says, "I'll stop when I can put my seat back." I decide I'll just wait him out. He'll eventually get tired. After about 10 to 15 minutes of this, he calls a flight attendant over and proceeds to demand a new seat. The flight attendant tells him that there are no available seats and he will have to deal with it. He demands to speak to the pilot. So the flight attendant goes up front to talk to the cockpit. Keep in mind that throughout this, he is still pressing with all his might against my knees, with only short breaks to yell at the flight attendant. After a couple minutes, the co-pilot, he wanted to speak to the pilot and wasn't happy about this, comes back and tries to explain to the man that he can't change seats because there are no other coach seats free. This man continues to demand a seat that is able to recline. "Give me an upgrade. This is unacceptable." Making a scene, etc. The co-pilot finally gives in and says while looking at the man, "Sir, would you like to sit up in business class?" The man stands up and mutters something similar to, "F***ing finally." To which the co-pilot responds, "Sir, sit down. I wasn't talking to you." He turns to me and repeats, "How would you like a seat in business class?" I have, to this day, never seen someone as furious as the man as I walked past him to my new business class seat, with free drinks. I could just imagine this dude steaming, just pissed. It never fails. Every time I fly, there's always a mad lad on board. Restaurant employee amuses himself, delights me and my kids. Yesterday, I decided to take my kids to an international chain restaurant. In this restaurant, the kids' meal comes with ice cream, but you have to serve yourself. That was a problem because there weren't any bowls beside the ice cream machine. So I thought, I know what to do, I'll simply ask an employee for some bowls, and that's just what I did. So he turns to look at the vast array of bowls behind him, some sauce-sized, some entree salad-sized, and many in between. And we realized that neither of us knows what size the kids' ice cream is intended to be. So he thought, I know what to do, I'll simply ask a manager. And he says, "Hey boss, what do we put the kids' ice cream in?" Without turning around, the boss says, "A f***ing bowl, what do you think?" "Well, yeah, but what size a bowl?" The boss, with his inimitable charm, tact, and grace, says, "Just f***ing give him a bowl." The employee looked back at the bowls, and then I saw him get a big grin over his face. "I apologize about that, sir. I think it's probably these ones," he says as he hands me two of the largest bowls they have in the restaurant, practically giggling with glee. My children were similarly delighted. The manager walked by when we were halfway through and made a noise like a startled possum, but said no actual words. Definitely going back there. I mean, come on, the employee probably should have known what bowl. Anyways, I mean, it's ice cream. Was told to actually read the policy, so I did. I work for an office and we have an 8-week busy season with mandatory overtime, 12 to 14 hours a day. During this time, the company agrees to reimburse us for dinner, up to $13 a meal. We just have to submit a claim with our receipts at the end of the busy season. Food options around my work aren't great, so I usually brought my dinner from home, but sometimes I was too tired to cook after a long day, so out of the 8 weeks, I purchased maybe 10 meals. 3 of those meals I spent $13.50, going 50 cents over the limit. This resulted in a whopping $1.50 overcharge, which my manager said it was no big deal and that I could include on my expense claim. He signed off on it and everything. A few days later, after I submitted my report, head office emailed me saying they rejected my expense claim and that I could resubmit after I removed the $1.50 overage. I wrote back saying my manager was fine with the $1.50 overage and even signed off on it, and they responded by telling me that they do not allow overages under any circumstances. That the $1.50 must be removed or they wouldn't approve any of my meal expenses. They ended their email with the advice that I should actually read the company policy next time. Fine, they were right and I was wrong, so I decided I'd read the policy very thoroughly before doing my expense claim. Yes, the policy clearly stated a $13 maximum on purchased meals. Oh, and what's this? The policy also allows a $10 per diem for meals you bring from home. I very happily removed the $1.50 overage and added an additional $300 for the 30 meals I brought from home. I should read the company policy more often. Man, they should have just let that $1.50 overage go. That just cost them $300. Ouch. Good on you for actually reading the policy. Malicious compliance for the greater good. I worked for a medical transportation company that had a contract with Medicaid. One of their many rules was that you could not provide any assistance to the patient inside of their house. An elderly lady had an old house with a very small foyer that you had to climb 3 steps to get to the main floor. The only other entrance was around back and up 2.5 flights of rickety steps to an old deck that opened into a bedroom. Upstairs? She's in a wheelchair. Common sense says to take her in the front door, up 3 stairs, and she's home on the level she lives on. Medicaid says take her up the outside stairs, dump her in the bedroom upstairs, and let her worry about getting down to the living room level. We ignored their policy and took her in the front door anyway. A random inspection by a random inspector showed that we were not in compliance. We appealed. The inspector came out and saw the different options and decided that we had no case for appeal. Take her up the outside stairs. Nope. From then on, when the driver arrived at her house, he would get her out of the van in the sidewalk and then get on the radio and tell the boss to shove his stupid job. Now that he was no longer an employee, he was free to assist this lovely lady into her front door and up the stairs. Once finished, they would come back to the van, tell the boss they'd reconsidered, and ask for their job back. The boss was always understanding and took them back, but carefully noted the 10 to 15 minute break in their employment to show that the company remained in compliance. Aftermath, we had contests to see who could have the most dramatic I quit scene. Medicaid noted our activities but couldn't put a handle on how to stop it. Malicious compliance achieved. Now that's using malicious compliance for the greater good right there. I definitely agree with that story. That's awesome. My brother told me to f*** off, so I did. He locked himself out of his room and I knew how to get him back in. I was all around 13 or so, and my brother is 3 years older than me. I woke up one morning to my brother huffing and bellowing and generally being a jerk. Didn't take very long to realize he'd locked himself out of his room. I offered to help him, but as soon as I did, he turned around and snapped at me to F off. Oh, okay, sure. I went inside the kitchen and had breakfast, eating slowly and watching the insanity unfold. My brother is stalking from his room, to the back of the house out the back door, circles around outside to wrestle with his window, then to the front of the house and comes in through the front door and paces back and forth in front of his door again. No matter what he tries, he can't get inside. Me? Are you sure you don't want help? Him? Get effing lost. I go into the living room and boot up his PlayStation, which he left in the living room, and play his games for a few hours. He's so preoccupied with doing his circuits outside, around and through the house, out of the back window and in the front that he doesn't even notice. Lunchtime rolls around and I ask him if he's absolutely certain he doesn't want my help. Once again, I get a slew of expletives. So I go back inside, make a sandwich, and grab a glass of orange juice and go back outside to sit on the bonnet of the car and watch as he does his circuits and wrestles with the window. I enjoy my lunch and go back inside to play more of his games. Hours later, the sun is going down, and I finally had my fill of games, and I go out to check on how he's doing. He's standing, defeated, staring helplessly at his window like it's betrayed him. Me? So how are you doing? You managed to get in yet? He doesn't hear the sarcasm. He looks like he's about to cry. Him? No. Look, I'm sorry about shouting at you earlier, but I locked myself out. I give his arm a comforting pat and nodded. Yeah, I heard about that. Would you like some help? I don't know what you could do, but yeah, I've tried everything. Thanks, though. Oh, it's no problem, but have you tried this yet? I pulled the top of his window down, where he's been trying to wrestle it up this whole time. The house is old, and the windows have been painted over many a time, so much that everyone but me forgot that once upon a time, you actually could open the windows from the top, even if it was locked from the inside. The look on his face as I walked away makes me wish I'd been wearing sunglasses or walked away polishing my nails on my shirt. It's been 20 years since then, and that jaw drop was so satisfying it makes me smile even to this day. I waited all day for my apology, and goddamn it felt good when I finally got it. Edit, if this ends up in a YouTube video, make sure to link me. Link in the description, brother. Sometimes people are just too stubborn to ask for help. Oftentimes that's me. Alright everybody, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Like this video if you liked it, and we'll see you all next time. Peace.